welcome everybody to our regular board meeting for July 24th, 2023. I'd like to welcome to the table our representatives from ICSC. If you would like to please turn on your microphones. Oh, sorry. Of course, it's right there on the agenda. Kinsey, go ahead.
Becker,
Here.
McCoy,
Here.
Leighton and Warren,
Here.
Welch,
Oh, I'm sorry. Nancy is excused tonight.
Lyerly,
Here.
Mills,
Here.
Here. Okay, so we have 6 members present. 1 is excused. I'm gonna just go ahead and introduce yourselves, guys.
I'm Viva Winkler. I'm going to be a senior at Southwest.
I'm Chanel Leopold from Preble and I'll be a sophomore.
Okay, thank you, guys. Feel free to ask questions and participate in whatever way you feel comfortable. I want to right a wrong at this point and just say that our last meeting, Dr. Tiller's first meeting at the table. And while he did get introduced, I neglected to offer him the chance to say something at that time. So if you have anything to say, I would invite you to do it at this point, and I apologize for the oversight last time.
I would like to say to the board and to the community and to the staff, thank you. I've had a welcome here and a gracious welcome from everybody. So thank you.
Great, thanks. Okay, then would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next on our agenda is the mission statement. Would someone like to read the mission statement? Go ahead, Laura.
We educate all students to be college, career, and community ready, inspired to succeed in our diverse world.
Thank you. And the next on our agenda is the land acknowledgement statement, which I'll read. We, the members of the Green Bay Area Public School District, recognize and honor the original inhabitants of Northeast Wisconsin. Our district lives, works, and learns upon the ancestral homelands of the Menominee and Ho-Chunk nations and the current homeland of Oneida Nation. We acknowledge the 12 diverse and vibrant Wisconsin First Nations who have persevered here since before recorded time and continue to be integral parts of our community. We uphold our responsibility to repair relationships, initiate partnerships, and stand with all First Nation communities. Next on the agenda is the Intracity Student Council report, but since it's summer, I don't think there is a report, so okay, that's fine. Pretty typical for this time of year. Oh, do you have news?
Just personal news. Earlier in June, I went to Badger Girl State. If you guys aren't familiar with that, it's like a model like state government. And I was elected for one of the state level positions as superintendent of public instruction.
If any of you know Viva, you know this is not a surprise. Thank you for sharing and congratulations. So, okay, so next on our agenda is open forum. And we have a number of people who want, what's that? Nope. Yeah, so we have a number of people who wish to speak. Oh, can you keep time? Do you want to do recognition first? Okay. I have it.
Previous page.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I got a mistake on my agenda here. Okay, so it gives me a lot of pleasure to invite Natalie Baumstead to the podium tonight to on behalf of Wello, and they have a presentation and something to say to us. Go ahead.
Wonderful. Is this on?
I think so.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I can project too. if Not. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity to be with you here this evening. Welcome, Dr. Tiller. I look forward to having some conversations with you and working with you in this beautiful community that is Green Bay. My name is Natalie Baumstead, and I serve as the Executive Director of Wello. Wello is a nonprofit organization here in Greater Green Bay. And our sole mission is around creating those community conditions that are fair and just to drive high levels of health and well-being for all. And to achieve this mission, we measure well-being. And I'm going to make a plug. There is a community well-being survey happening right now through August 31st. It's open community-wide.
I took it.
Awesome. And that helps us really understand where our community is on that health and well-being journey. And it also helps us live into this mission that we believe very strongly, which is that all people should have that opportunity to thrive, no exceptions. And we take that well-being data that we collect and we look at with our community and we test strategies. And then we build on what works. And I'm here today because the Green Bay Area Public School District has been such a wonderful partner in that kind of testing strategies and building on what works framework that we have at Wello. And two of those partnerships that we will highlight here today is through our Farm to School program, as well as through the mindfulness program Wello and the Green Bay Area Public School District have been really partnering on for a number of years. First, I'll start with Farm to School. So we know when kids come to school, one thing that's really important is to make sure that what we're putting in our bodies, that food, that's healthy, that's healthy food. And as much as we can make that healthy food also local food and really help our local farmers and really making sure that kids are ready to learn. And the Green Bay Public School District has been partners with RM Farm to School since 2012, when the formation of the Farm to School Task Force really started and brings together not only the Green Bay Area Public School District, but districts from all over the county. And so I'm here today, we're going to have a giant check presentation, but part of that is an investment in Green Bay schools at Preble High School, Southwest High School, and Red Smith Elementary to continue further their farm to school efforts within their district. So I also want to thank Green Bay Food Service for being such amazing partners. It takes all of us, and our food service staff has really been wonderful at really thinking about how we can transform school meals so that our kids are really set up for their best possible outcomes. The second is the mindfulness program. I think we're all kind of emerging, if I can say emerging from this pandemic, and we've seen how that mental health crisis really, it got worse during the pandemic. And it really is going to take a community-wide approach to really make sure that we are really supporting our young people from both the classroom as well as from inside the community. Green Bay Area Public Schools has been a great partner with us since 2012 at really thinking about what can we do as a district together and really thinking about those policies and those practices and those supports for who we call the caregivers, right? Those classroom instructors, those paraprofessionals that are in the classroom, really interacting with students day to day, as well as how can we make sure that teachers in their classroom have those tools to really help students succeed and really think about mental health in those ways that we can help support our students. And so part of this check presentation, this past year, we were able to support 22 schools across the district with some of that classroom-based education and supports to support mental health for our kids. And so as we really look forward, I'm really excited to continue working with the Green Bay Area Public School District, as well as identifying some of those additional opportunities that will help us together really live into that vision to make sure all people in our community can thrive, no exceptions. So with that, I'd invite Dr. Tiller and Laura to come up and we can take a picture with Rogelio Contreras, from our community mobilizer at Wello as well. I should say the check is for $10,012.36.
express our gratitude just one more time. Can we give one more round of applause? Thank you so much. Now we have the public forum. Sorry about that, guys. We have a number of people. If anyone in the audience would like to speak tonight and haven't filled out the form yet, there's forms out in the hallway. If fill them out and give them to Kinsey and she'll get them to me. But first, we're going to start with Denise Santos. Okay. Yeah. It's possible she meant to just submit this online, so. Okay, that's fine. The next is Faith Ainsworth. Go ahead, state your name and address, and then you have 5 minutes.
Hello,
Hi.
my name is Faith Ainsworth and my address is actually 920 Ruffed Grouse Street, Green Bay, Wisconsin. So part of the reason I'm actually here tonight is I'm one of the business owners and I wanted to share with our community in the school district about a unique opportunity just for the students to know. We've had my business, my husband and I own a TBRI evidence-based trauma-informed sensory gym. I don't know if anybody's heard of a sensory gym. It's something that's newer. But I wanted to just share about some of the impact that it's having and then hopefully a way that you as the school board are able to hear and that we maybe be able to connect the students. So kind of like well segued into having overall better well-being with the kids. Some of the stories that we have children that are very severe on the spectrum or just in general have sensory needs. And by coming to our facility, they've been able to come together as a family. They've been able to sleep at night. Their teachers, doctors, and parents have all noticed a difference by having regular sensory input. And we're talking individuals that aren't even capable of talking. It's been very difficult for me to try and get a hold of the Green Bay School District. I've tried multiple areas. As a small business owner myself, we're growing. We haven't been open for a year yet until October. But we believe that we have one of the answers to try and help the students to just be able to achieve that overall well-being. And it doesn't just relate to those that you think of things like autism. It can go for those with sensory needs, those that come from hard places. And this is where they get to come and have that community and understand that they're safe. So our business official name is Integrated Sensory, because our goal in the end is we want them to have integrated sensory needs. So currently we just have it where there's free play. Otherwise, we're also going to be having play coaches as well to kind of come along with the parents and be able to help them understand and go a little bit further with their kids. If I don't know if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But like I said, I was here. I wanted to share this opportunity. I had brochures if anybody is interested in at that point. But those that have used this as a resource, it's great to see the change in that well-being. So, and we do welcome the siblings that don't have disabilities to say, and it's cool to get to see, for lack of better terms, the whole family together. And it's the first time that these siblings and these families have ever experienced something like this. So, but you guys are obviously a big proponent for the kids. So I wanted to make sure that you know this resource is available.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay. Next is Gabriela Para. Oh, okay. Okay. Gabriela, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can. If you would please state your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes.
I am Gabriela Parra. I am at 915 Taft Terrace in Hartford, Wisconsin. I am coming to you and addressing you today as the Vice Chair of NewLid and co-owner of Leighton Parra, an immigration law firm dedicated to the immigrant community across Wisconsin, including the Green Bay area. I'm grateful for the opportunity to engage in this pivotal discussion and appreciate you accommodating remote participation. Today, I want to renew our dialogue about bilingual education and highlight NewLid's plea for the board and district to champion access to bilingualism, biliteracy, and biculturalism for all students, with a special emphasis on Latino students. NewLid advocates for the dual language education developmental bilingual program, also known as one-way bilingual, a program previously implemented by GBAPSD that can promote balance with 50% of instruction in English and 50% in Spanish. This program can potentially foster students' linguistic development in 2 languages while safeguarding their Latino heritage. However, this program has been sidelined, leading to the departure of several bilingual teachers who oppose this administrative decision. While we comprehend the district's inclination to postpone decisions concerning Tank Elementary indefinitely, NewLid strongly believes that reinstating the one-way bilingual program at Tank is crucial. This program could address the needs of bilingual children in the near west side, where demographic data indicates a surge in the Latino population. We envision Tank Elementary as a pioneer that drives this change, thereby aligning with this district mission to educate all students to be college, career, and community ready, inspired to succeed in our diverse world. With Spanish being one of the world's most spoken languages and Latinos representing the fastest growing and largest minority in Wisconsin, in this district and across the United States, it is clear the students can greatly benefit from learning Spanish and exploring Latin American cultures through the language. This will ensure students are prepared to succeed in an increasingly multicultural and diverse world. This experience equips students to respect and acknowledge cultural differences that are integral to the United States. But this discussion goes beyond academic benefits. We must address bilingualism as a key component of cultural identity as opposed to merely a luxury or barrier to English proficiency. Let's dispel the misconception that bilingualism hinders English proficiency. We must recognize that bilingual students may perform differently in educational settings. Traditional school accountability systems do not fully appreciate these differences, inadvertently casting bilingualism as an obstacle to academic success. Instead, we should celebrate the unique advantages bilingualism provides. Furthermore, we must abandon the long-standing approach of assimilating minorities into a monolingual American culture by erasing their native languages and thereby their cultural identity. Our native languages forms a bridge between cultures. In the words of many Latinos, nuestra lengua nativa es parte de nuestra cultura. Our language is part of our culture. Preserving nuestra lengua nativa maintains an invaluable connection with our families both in the U.S. and Latin America. In my personal and professional interactions, I have observed a painful disconnect when children are coerced into learning English at the cost of their native language. This leads to communication barriers within families and severs ties to their cultural heritage. It's heartbreaking to see these young students grappling with an identity crisis, often left to navigate these complex questions alone. Having been fortunate enough to maintain fluency in both English and Spanish, I can attest to the unique access it grants me to my Mexican heritage and the diverse cultures across Latin America. My bilingual identity has been a journey of self-discovery, accepting my place as a Chicana, and understanding the importance of intertwining cultures. When a language is lost, a part of our identity is lost with it. Our mission should be to empower students to embrace their bilingualism and biculturalism and not see them as barriers to success. This board, along with the district, has the power to ensure Latino students have access to programs that celebrate linguistic heritage. Despite budget constraints, we must prioritize equitable distribution of resources. There are schools, predominantly white, that continue to enjoy the benefits of bilingual programs. It's essential that Latino serving schools also have access to these resources, such as TANK, providing all parents the option to enroll their children in bilingual programs. In conclusion, NewLid stands ready to collaborate with the district and the board to craft innovative solutions for increased access to bilingual programs. As fellow members of the Latino community, we hope we may find opportunities to assist and collaborate on this important effort as it moves forward. Please let us know if there are ways we can contribute constructively. We appreciate you taking the time to consider this petition. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you very much. Next on the list is Lisa Kardish. Lisa, can you hear us? Hello, can you hear us? I'm sorry.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. If you would please state your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Lisa Kardish, and my address is 2592 Remington Court. I am here to talk with you tonight about a survey sent to Da Vinci families on July 14th, seeking what was termed as input regarding the potential relocation of Leonardo da Vinci to Webster Elementary. The email states this survey was sent on behalf of the board. I will assume this means you have read the survey and approved the content. If that is the case, I am extremely frustrated, discouraged, and disappointed. The survey included the same exact rhetoric that ATSR provided when they proposed this move. This rhetoric is not only entirely one-sided, but it is filled with inaccurate data. If you are really interested in feedback, you would have taken the time to create a survey that contained an accurate accounting of the pros and the cons of staying at Da Vinci and of moving to Webster. You would have shared the money that taxpayers will be required to spend to fund this relocation, and you would have provided a space for comments. You did not do any of these things, and as a result, we are left feeling that you are not really interested in our feedback. I, as well as several other parents, teachers, and administrators, have taken our time to share with the board an abundance of facts in response to the 7 inaccurate data points originally provided by ATSR and now included in this survey. We sent emails, we spoke at board meetings, and we spoke at public forums. It is clear that you do not care about any of the data we shared. While I would like to share all of these facts again, I only have 5 minutes. Instead, I will highlight just a few of the inaccuracies from the survey. Da Vinci has a better educational adequacy score, a better facility conditions index score, and requires several $1 million less in investment than Webster. The $10+ million renovation that was completed less than 10 years ago at Da Vinci has resulted in a well-maintained, extremely modern, and efficient educational setting. Even though Webster may have 23% more square footage, the additional space will only accommodate 16 more students. A potential increase of 16 students hardly justifies $3 million in renovation costs. Contrary to what was shared in the survey, there is space to expand the facilities at Da Vinci, and in fact, studies were underway to do just that prior to COVID. Da Vinci classrooms are not undersized. Most classrooms effectively serve 24 to 26 students. I cannot imagine a scenario where the district would want more than 26 students per teacher in a classroom. And finally, you state in this survey that the recommendation to relocate Da Vinci to Webster is based on feedback received from the school administrator. Talk about misleading. I think we can all agree that Tammy Van Dyke, the school administrator, made her opposition to the relocation of Da Vinci crystal clear when she spoke at the public forum on May 24th. You have spent more resources on yet another third party and commissioned a survey that has zero hope of providing any accurate or helpful information. I shared this survey with several unbiased and non-impacted community members. Every single person said it seemed incredibly manipulative and that it was obvious that whoever created this survey had one answer that they wanted to receive, which was support for the relocation. Actions like this continue to erode our trust in the board and district leadership. Why are you relying on surveys to reach out to families? Parents have been begging for an opportunity to meet with board members face-to-face since news of this potential relocation was shared. Personally, I reached out to Laura McCoy as president of the board via email and in person on 4 different occasions: April 21st, April 24th, April 25th, and May 3rd. I never received the courtesy of a response from Ms. McCoy. I reached out to Ms. Layton Warren as the board representative for Da Vinci on 3 different occasions: April 24th, April 25th, and May 3rd. Ms. Layton Warren stated she would meet with me for 20 minutes, but never provided a date or time that she was willing to meet. Knowing that ATSR would be presenting their proposal to the board on May 8th, and being fearful that I was not able to share my data, I reached out to Ms. Welch on May 5th. She understood the urgency and agreed to meet with me on May 7th. Thank you, Ms. Welch, for meeting with me and listening to my concerns. During my family's 10 years in the district, I had never requested one moment of time from any board member. I was shocked that you were not willing to meet with me. You may claim to be busy and have too much on your plate. However, do you know who did find time to meet with me? The current mayor of Green Bay, the former mayor of Green Bay, elected council members, and several key business and community leaders. As an elected official, it is important that you remember your commitment to the community you serve, not just your commitment to the district. The only way for the district and community to move forward in a healthy and productive manner is to rebuild trust. The only way to do that is to have meaningful dialogue. I assure you the one-sided speaking opportunities you provide and the one-sided surveys you distribute will continue to erode the trust and support of this community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Leah Weekly. You state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Leah Weekly, 3467 Yorkshire Road, Green Bay. In preparation for Thursday's meeting with Weequahic families, I would like to readdress the key concerns and losses that must be taken into account in the closure and the recommendation of the closure of Weequahic. I urge you to carefully consider the impact of this decision as it entails significant losses for our district, our community, and the future of Green Bay. These concerns are financial loss. The closure of Weequahic would result in financial losses, not gains for the district. Detailed data indicates this closure would have significant financial implications that need thorough examination. The district provided a number of $750,000 that has still not been verified to keep Weequahic open. From the information that was provided to us via a public records request with the district, the numbers showed it only took up to $206,000 in operating costs to keep Weequahic open. Also, according to our parent survey, with only half the parents responding, the district would lose well over $500,000 when the Weequahic families take their kids out of the district, as they expressed that they will do. Closure of the top performing Green Bay area public schools. Weequahic's distinction as a top performing Green Bay area public school highlights its significance and remarkable success. Weequahic is currently ranked second in the district for test scores. Future generation of Green Bay. The students at Weequahic are the heart of our community's future of environmental science. Moving them to a different location, such as Red Smith, will disrupt their educational journey and negatively impact their academic development and social well-being. Environmental pathway. Weequahic has been an excellent example of a successful environmental pathway, fostering awareness and appreciation for the environment among students. Closing the school will impede our efforts to educate the younger generation on crucial environmental matters. Not all areas of our pathway can be transferred to another school. Location matters and the future matters. Mental health considerations. Weequahic has been known for its nurturing environment and supportive atmosphere, contributing to the mental well-being of our kids. Transferring them to a new school will introduce uncertainties that may adversely affect their mental health. If you want to see happy kids, take a look at the playground on a school day at Weequahic. Not all kids thrive in mega schools. Parental involvement. Weequahic has successfully fostered strong relationships between school and parents, leading to active parental involvement in students' education in the district. The closure will jeopardize these valuable connections. Community impact. The closure of Weequahic would undoubtedly impact the town of Scott and local organizations like the Boy Scouts, as they have collaborated with the school on various initiatives. The town of Scott is currently working on a new road to Weequahic, including a bike path.
Why not use this to the district's advantage to promote the school? The closure of Weequahic will erode the trust in our district as it signifies a failure to uphold the commitment to providing the best learning environments for our children. I sincerely request that you thoroughly review all of the information that we've provided continuously at these meetings and take all of our recommendations into account. It is my hope that this information will lead to a more informed decision-making process, considering the potential devastation to our community of Weequahic if it's closed and the students are relocated to Red Smith.
Thank you very much. And I'm about to, we have one more. So again, if there's anybody else who would like to speak, fill out the form and give it to Kinsey. This will be our last speaker. It's Lisa Knuth. Knuth, I'm very sorry. Please state your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Okay, my name is Lisa Knuth. I live at 615 Edgewood Drive in Green Bay. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you again tonight. I apologize if anything I say repeats what Lisa shared prior to me. I'm just gonna keep going with what I have here. I'm sure you're all a little sick of hearing from me, but I'm back again to address the underhanded practices and manipulative measures that continue to be used by the district and the school board in regards to the facilities plans. When my husband and I received the emailed survey on July 14th from the district seeking input from Da Vinci families regarding the facilities task force recommendation to relocate Da Vinci to Webster, for a brief moment, we were so excited. We thought we were being heard, being included in the process, being invited to have a seat at the table. Our excitement immediately turned to anger and frustration as soon as we clicked on the link to complete the survey. The background information that you shared prior to being able to access the survey was inaccurate and misleading. By no means was this a survey. This was a setup. I have stood before this board and gone through inaccuracy and by inaccuracy regarding the current Da Vinci site, and I'd like to do so again for you tonight for the benefit of Dr. Tiller. Number one, yes, the current facility is one of the oldest in the district, but over 10 million taxpayer dollars have been spent to purchase, renovate, and add additional facilities onto the current site less than 10 years ago. That figure does not take into account the $500,000 in private and community donations. Number two, as Lisa shared, the capacity at Webster will not be significantly increased once renovations are completed to accommodate a middle school population. Number three, there is ample green space at the current location, and none of the teachers or staff that I have reached out to have shared that crossing a quiet neighborhood street is an issue. Number four, it is accurate that both Da Vinci and Webster have combined gyms and cafeterias. Webster is called for in the task force recommendation to have a gym addition. Why has this option not been explored at the current site? In early 2020, as the PTO president, the PTO board and I were exploring the option of an addition with the current school administration, and this idea was shown to have a lot of support throughout the parent community. Unfortunately, those plans were derailed by COVID. We would like to have them revisited. Number five, classroom size has been repeatedly brought up as an issue with the current site. Has anyone from ATSR or the Facilities Task Force ever even stepped foot within this building? Number six, yes, there is no library at Da Vinci, but that was by choice. There is a thinking studio where students gather and work together. There is a 90,000 square foot public library, just a 6-minute walk down the street, and online resources are plentiful and cost efficient. As I have shared with the board before, our son is going to be in 8th grade this year at Da Vinci, so these plans do not affect our family at all. I have no other children in the district. But I can't sit by and let these wrongs continue to go by unchallenged. I'm here tonight in support of the teachers and staff that want to stay doing their incredible work at the current location, and also on behalf of the many families that want to continue to call the Monroe Street location their school's home. The strategies that you continue to use to push through what seems to be your preordained plans is becoming more and more apparent with every move that is made by the board. The community's trust in the Green Bay School District isn't only fading, it's completely disappearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. That completes our public forum. Next on the agenda is under presentations is the legislative update, and that will be Lynn Gerlach.
My very first legislative update. And thank you to Lori Blakesley for helping me and mentoring me. You have a copy of it there. I imagine all of the board members have already looked at it, and I'm certainly not going to read it to you. And remember that at our last meeting, James gave us a kind of a preview of what was coming. So now the governor has signed the budget, and it includes Assembly Bill 321, and that's the one that we've spent a lot of time talking about. You notice that there are some bullet points there. You're going to want to read those, but essentially, and I have to say, I'm very happy about this. The state is indicating that all public schools, and if I misspeak, someone correct me. I believe that the state is indicating that all public schools now will return to science-based literacy learning. And that means that our staff is working on looking for a new curriculum. We'll learn more about that next spring. So read the bullet points. I think this is very exciting news myself. And then down at the bottom, you see some other bills that are listed. And these were, hearings were supposed to have been held on July 20th. I confess I have struggled to find any further information. I've read each of them. They're not fascinating, but one is about having all schools add an anti-choking device to their first aid kit in all schools. Another one is about redefining what strip search means, et cetera, et cetera. I have nothing to add. If you have questions, I will try to answer them.
Go ahead, Brian.
This isn't a question, but more of a statement. Our group that just presented the for recognition with the speaking of mindfulness and the impacts it's had since COVID. I just wanted to mention earlier I had spoken up about the Speak Up and Speak Out tip line and funding within the Department of Justice. It wasn't included in the state budget, but I know that the Department of Justice is working on getting that secured for state funding. So it's something that would definitely be valuable to contact whoever you would like to contact on that. That's a tip line that goes out to students throughout the state and I know it's been utilized by students in many districts in the county. So just wanted to give some updated information. We had spoken briefly about that. It was not included, but it's definitely a valuable resource for our students. So.
Thank you. James.
So I appreciate the update and I appreciate your perspective on this, but I don't know yet now that this is signed and we have a delineated list of items that were included in this assembly bill and is concrete. Is Dr. Chartier available or is there a way we can understand the impact to district? How far along are we towards this process? And, what does this actually mean for the district? Because I know that we were heading in this direction. I just would like to see if we can round out our understanding.
Yeah, thank you. It looks like we are in a very good position, but Dr. Chartier and her team are preparing an update for the board. August work session will bring that to you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions for Lynn or want to make any comments regarding the legislative update? Brian.
I know that there's been differing opinions regarding Assembly Bill 321 with the instruction for reading. So it'll be interesting to see how that is adapted. I know that some reading advocates have taken a position and that's still going to be fluid. And I don't think that's just going to be a Wisconsin thing. I think that's still going to be experiencing some change nationally. So
The flow seems to be going toward the science of reading nationwide. And that has been coming for a long time. And the politics around reading is always shocking because it shouldn't be political, but indeed it is. So, okay. Anybody else? All right. Thank you, Lynn. Okay, next on the agenda is facilities master planning and referendum updates. I think the first thing we should tackle under this is the fact that we're about to head into the process of choosing an advisory board. And at the same time, we're about to finish up an RFP for a company that can do boundaries work and equity work. So I've talked to James and he is willing to take on the job of drafting a charter for this advisory committee, which is required under our new policy. So this will be the first test of our new policy regarding advisory committees, which we voted on, boy, just a few weeks ago. You all have a copy of it. And I would advise you all to have another look at it. Think of questions and concerns you have, and things that you might want to share with James as he drafts this document. There are a number of restrictions. There's a number of requirements. I won't go into all of them, but it's going to be a much more regulated process, and we're going to need your feedback and your input. Anybody have any questions regarding this? Go ahead.
So just under section 2A4, there's an enumeration A through J. Just spend some time, and I'm basically serving as a collection point for your any requirements or any thing that you want to be seen in a draft. And what I'll do is come to the next work session with a draft that hopefully touches on and incorporates the requirements provided by the board. Intend to work with the district and Lori and others, especially around kind of the communication plan of how we announce and socialize the committee. And with Dr. Tiller as it relates to the district resources that would support the committee as well. But hopefully by the next work session, we have to get in front of this once we know who the successful candidate is for the RFP. Think that before we finalize the charter, we probably meet with them as well, but it should be in good state so that we can receive their inputs, make finals, and then kind of initiate the committee selection in that process. So if anyone, I'll kind of communicate with everyone about the best way to collect information. I'll run that, just make sure that we're doing things legitimately. We'll run it by legal to make sure that we don't violate any rules or laws in collection of information. But we'll see if we can get this done over the course of the next couple of weeks. All right.
I did talk to Kinsey just before the meeting today, as far as the process of applying to be on this advisory committee. There'll be a date when that will open up, and then a date when that will close. So people who might be interested should, once that date is established, apply. And I would probably, it wouldn't be too early to say that not everyone who applies will necessarily be able to, depending on what the board decides is the right number of people. Not necessarily everyone who applies will be able to serve, but I would like the process to be uniform for everybody. Go ahead, Brian.
We've had, I believe, 2 or 3 community members reach out to us expressing interest. Once that policy is set, will you as the president be reaching out to those people to share with them that this is what we're looking at? Or would you have Kinsey, or I just want to make sure those people are informed as well as the public, but since they expressed interest.
Yeah, I think we should start again to have it be uniform and fair with a blank slate. And if you are interested, you'll have to go through the regular process. So, okay.
And I anticipate those people going through that process, but just because they've expressed interest on it, to reach out and say, this is the process.
Yeah.
And let them know that.
Okay.
So I'm asking a question. Would you like us to reach out to them? Would you like to as board president? Would we like to have Kinsey or?
I'm happy to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah. Again, I'm anxious that everyone is treated exactly the same way. So go ahead, Lynn.
and that's a segue to what I was going to ask about everyone being treated the same way. Is there a plan to, before you start choosing people, you talked about deciding on the number of people, but is there going to be a plan, like criteria? I don't quite know how to explain it, but there are various ways of approaching this. One could be geographic. For example, looking at where all the schools are located and choosing people who are in certain school districts. Making sure, another way is legislative. You know, you could look at the Green Bay council map and choose one person from each aldermanic district and one person from Scott and one person from Bellevue. Is somebody going to make a plan before you start choosing people?
The policy does touch on that. And, oh God, I'm sorry, I should have marked this off
It's 4C.
for,
It's A4C.
right, here. No, that's not the one I'm referring to. Go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead, James.
So in the creation of the charter, we have to, as board members, identify any qualifications that we want individuals to come with, right? That qualification can be where you live, you know, a level of education or a certain characteristic or attribute that would make you a good committee member. So over the next couple of weeks, please communicate your desire of what those qualifications from your perspective should be. The draft will, I'll try to represent everyone's different perspectives on those so that we can have that discussion. And unfortunately, we have to have that discussion in a meeting so that we go from draft to final. So hopefully the sign off or approval of the charter should lay out all of the qualifications that the board has agreed are requirements or should be, we should be sensitive to for committee selection. So that plan should evolve over the course of August. And then selection starts, because you have to have a charter so that you can select the members of the committee, because it lays out those qualifications and any restrictions that we have.
If I can just quickly respond, I didn't understand that. I thought a charter was a charter to the people who had already been chosen. So thank you.
No. So the section was referring to is, let's see, it's 2 under 4B, it says advisory committee membership. And that kind of talks a little bit about kind of what we can take into consideration according to this policy for membership to the advisory committee. So everyone, you know, just reacquaint yourself with this policy. It's kind of a test drive for this policy, which is just brand new. Because this won't be the first time this policy will need to be used in order to form an advisory committee. So. Any other questions or concerns about that particular aspect? All right, so anything further under the facilities master planning and referendum updates? I know, so we're about to have the cutoff date for the RFP applicants. Once that's done, there will be a process to review those applicants. And James has volunteered to sit in on that process. So we will have board representation in that. That I'm not sure exactly how long that'll take to review that, but come up with a recommendation to the board, which we'll vote on. I don't know, Josh, do you have anything to add to that? Right now, it feels like we're kind of in a lull. It feels that way, but it's not actually true. We're mostly just waiting for the process of the RFP and putting together this charter. So go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, so the RFP closes tomorrow at 2:00 p.m. How long it takes to score that RFP is going to depend on how many submissions. If you recall the RFP language, there's a lot of subjective scoring criteria, which tends to take a little bit longer, thinking back to my time in technology, when I would go and buy Chromebooks, I look at the price, right? And these are going to have to be, every page of these proposals will need to be read to understand the solution that's being proposed, and price is just kind of a small piece of the scoring criteria. So I do think it's going to take a little bit longer, but without knowing how many submissions we have, it's
So
probably
you-
going to take a couple weeks.
Okay, so, so you're thinking mid-August, before maybe the second meeting in August, you might be able to offer a recommendation to the board if everything goes as planned? I'm not holding you to that. I'm just trying to get a mental timeline.
Yeah, I think the original plan was to use that work session as for vendor presentations.
Oh,
Um,
okay. So the
with
first meeting of the month.
Yeah, in August,
Okay.
whatever date that is. I don't have a calendar in front of me.
Mhm. The 14th?
14th.
Okay, so potentially we'll have some vendor presentations on the 14th.
Yeah, that's possible.
Okay, James?
Oh, also, so I agree, it feels kind of like a lull, but some of the direction to the district via the resolutions were to start preparing for the packages that we would look at to determine if a particular school should close per plan or not. So early in that process, when it related to tank, some information, surfaced very quickly that allowed us to take some action and kind of redirect the district. I would like is if as soon as possible, we can hear any information that would test or confirm the assumptions made around Week Riok, right? And the key one is Red Smith's population such that Week Riok population can fit in that school, because I think there's ambiguity that I'd like to, no, let me just restate. Ambiguity is not the right word. We looked at numbers, Fort Howard and Tank, and they proved not to take into consideration some aspects that we needed to take into consideration. I would like the district to come back and say, the assumptions laid out in the resolution that would support that move, kind of test true, and here's some supporting information. I know that, it'll be, I don't want to wait until the November deadline to have that kind of, assumption failure surface where we could have redirected and changed the plan. So as long as what we're doing this summer, kind of finding those gotchas as quickly as possible, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, the big one for the weekly Ock and Red Smith is the environmental programming, right? You want to make sure that, or the board has expressed a desire to preserve that programming at a different location. There are physical things that may need to move. There may be professional development that needs to happen, those sorts of things. So Vicky and her team are actually working on that right now.
The situation at Tank wasn't that, it wasn't that they had bad information up front. It had to do that within, since that the ATSNR did that study, some changes had happened at Fort Howard and some new programming had been put there, which made the numbers change. And that happened in November. So ATSNR wasn't aware of that. They couldn't have known that.
Right, nor was the task force, obviously, when they made the recommendation.
It's post dates that work. So, so that, that's the nature of our district. It's very fluid. And, anyway, go ahead, Brian.
I want to stress one of the goals that we've had since this task force or project or issue has been addressed is that we're making sure that programming at every school improves. And while I understand the impetus of the schools that you mentioned, that are 42 schools that we have, and how many ever schools we have after that, that the programming remains for them all, and that we are improving their educational abilities and opportunities at every school. So when we're looking at it, those opportunities can be brought up, and that we're taking advantage of this as a once in a generation opportunity to really improve what we're looking at. And down the road, that may also involve start times. That may involve geographic boundaries, making sure that we have stability for students to attend their school if they move within a certain area, that we're able to provide our staffing levels that we need to for art and for OT and PT and other services there, and that our ID programming on there. So while I know that 1 and 2 schools have been mentioned with that, it is the goal of our board to make sure that all of our students throughout the district have those opportunities as well. So when we look at that, we take that into consideration as well. And that was always our goal with this, and to make sure that, once again, this is a once in a generation opportunity we have to make sure our students are being addressed and provide that education they need.
Yes, that the role of the board is to care about our whole district, all 42 schools, and all of our students. So it's challenging, but we can't just focus on 1 school, 2 schools. It's all of them, all of the students. Go ahead, Andrew.
I guess my point might be a little different. So if this is a continuing on the same point, I can defer.
Does anyone have anything else? You're good? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I'm just wondering what needs to happen for this to be, as I believe was discussed and heads were nodded around the table, that this was going to be a permanent item on the agenda and posted for action. So part of that happened for this time, but it's not posted for possible action. We should be able to make a motion, which I believe is legal to do, whether we said posted for action or not, but traditionally we haven't. So I think it should be posted for possible action. And if it was, I would make a motion to have this be an item on every agenda to make that official. But I want to know how we can get commitment official to have this be a permanent item with open for action and motions until such time as it's completed.
Brian.
I agree with having it as discussion on there. I would be concerned with action, and it's going to go counter to what I'm going to say later on about making sure that we're making decisions and moving on this. But by having it, and Andrew, if I'm incorrect on this, please let me know, having it as a possibility of action without motions posted, I think does not, it doesn't rest well with me. It doesn't give the transparency that this board is presenting to the district. And I think that becomes more of a concern with it. I have no problem with this being posted for discussion every board meeting, and I think it should, but I don't know if I'm making sense with that, Andrew, or not, my concern with it.
Well, sure, but then how far do you go into a point where every motion is scripted then? Every motion is approved by the president or vice president, or it doesn't get made? I mean, that's otherwise where we end up.
Lynn.
I have to agree with Andrew. In my experience with parliamentary groups, I've never heard of having to have a motion on the agenda, because the purpose of discussion is to bring to the surface good ideas so that a motion might be made or maybe not made. But I didn't ever realize that a motion had to be sent in and put into the agenda in advance. If it does, I just don't know it.
My understanding is that the public needs a warning that we're going to be taking action. So if we make a motion, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody, because not everyone knows who you are.
Hi, I'm Abby Tilkins. I work within the legal department. I'm the student discrimination and Title IX coordinator, and I'm filling in for Melissa Thiel-Collar today. So with respect to that, we always do need to post motions before they would be acted upon here. So for today, this was posted as a discussion item. It wasn't posted as action, so we couldn't move forward with that. We could reconsider that for the next board meeting, but for today, that's where we're at.
Just sort of stay there for now, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Go ahead, James. And then Brian.
So I think this conversation might just be an artifact of how we navigated this month, right? So if we agree that this will be posted for discussion, we can use our first working session to make a determination whether the regular board meeting should be posted for action based on the discussions during the working session. That way we remain transparent. We also follow a very transparent way of notifying the community that we're going to take action. So if you want to come or and be present, you know, to take interest in that. I think you run the risk of, if it's always posted for action, you're not doing a service to the public to know when to pay attention and when not, because you may go weeks and months without any actual action during that period of time. So if there's a compromise where we always have it posted and we make a determination of how we post the regular board meeting, does that satisfy the concern?
And we always have the option of having a special meeting tacked on to a work session if we really need to take a vote on something. So I think you were next, Brian, and then Lynn. No. Oh, then Laura. Go ahead, Laura. Okay.
I was just going to echo what Andrew and Lynn had said in my experience with the tribal government. We draft motions from the floor almost exclusively, which is why we have our attorney on site to help with that. So as long as the topic has been noticed, we've been able to draft the motions related to it. And so that was my understanding as well. And but I appreciate Abby, you sharing your expertise as well.
I think Andrew's next.
Yeah, so what is?
No?
Laura went before me. And then
Okay.
it's up first.
You're
Okay.
right. I'm sorry, Andrew, just hold on a second. Go ahead, Brian.
And Andrew, I understand the intent with this, what I'm anticipating, and I respect what other people are saying other bodies have done. This is a prime example of where I have brought up things that other bodies have done and it hasn't been recognized. So I think recognizing our norms as a board and making sure that we have discussion items, what we're going to talk about as opposed to our action items. We can discuss what a planned motion would be during this time, but to have it come up for a vote and not have it notified, I think is concerning with it. So I fully recognize that other governments may have done it and other groups following Robert's rules in whatever way they've done it. But I think we have a responsibility to have those posted beforehand, and that's the practice that we've had with it. So I don't know if that addresses your concern with it or not, Andrew.
And also, I've been on the board for 6+ years. Those 2 weeks between our work session and our regular board meeting are often very useful time to find out more, especially if something is particularly controversial or difficult or complex. Go ahead. And then Andrew.
The other part of that is if there's interest in having a motion and for some reason it's not being brought forward, whether it's by a decision by the chair or by the vice chair, by the superintendent, I think we as a body need to make sure that that's being addressed and that we discuss that's not squelching ideas or thoughts on that. And I understand that there's some responsibility that comes with the chair and with the vice chair, but if that's an ongoing thing, I think we need to make sure that that is addressed. And I hope that kind of addresses concerns with you on that, Andrew, or not.
Okay, Andrew.
Well, we have, we are probably the only body that is forcing all motions to essentially be pre-scripted. I mean, noticing the topic is important and there's a reason that that's required by law. But the amount of power, especially when the work session chair and vice chair arrangement has still not yet been established, which was some amount of separation of powers, small though it were. It just seems to put do I think that if I had a motion about something that I wanted to have made, that it would be blocked by Laura and James? No. I mean, do I think it would end up on the agenda even if the president and vice president didn't like it? Probably yes, with this president and this vice president, but that's not how you're supposed to be making your decisions. I'll stop here, but because we've already had there be a time where, I guess I think we need to at some point make a motion saying that this is a standing agenda item. And I can't even make that motion now because this wasn't posted for action.
Go ahead, Brian.
And hating to say this as a point of order, we've kind of taken quite the turn from the posted item. So I think this is this something that would be able to be discussed at the cabinet meeting that was posted in August. I think that would fall in.
So our retreat,
Yes.
Dr. Tiller, how do you feel about that?
Absolutely. Anything to save time as we move forward.
Very good. All right. Go ahead, James.
If I would like to return to the posted item about the master facility plan. And Josh, you're way too far away.
Thank you,
so
Abby.
As it pertains to the resolutions that the district is working on, I feel like the RFP provides good coverage on the boundary exercise and the equity lens and everything. And we talked about, making sure that we test assumptions early on some of the other ones. There's one sentence in the larger resolution that was written that directed the district to look for alternatives around, and it kind of gave an example of schools where some alternative options may be discovered, right? So what I'd like to, make known is as soon as possible, because this is something else there. I just don't think that the timeline established by the resolution, giving you until November, or in this case, I think it was actually December 31st, because it's part of the larger resolution that included the equity study and whatever, for alternatives to emerge, right? So if I can express my desire that the district, as options and alternatives present themselves, that they are packaged up, and presented back to the board against a timeline that gives us the ability to respond in the event that there's any impact to referendum questions or stuff like that. So I just wanted to call out that it seemed very organized, the approach to most of the resolutions, but that one sentence kind of opened the doors to another set of activity that I don't think we have a transparent plan around. And if the district would like a direction around a transparent plan, we can do that, but I don't think we need one. I just wanted to make sure that, I expressed a desire not to wait until late fall to hear about anything that you guys discover.
I'm glad you brought that up because that is not how I understood that clause you're talking about when describing the assessment activities that should include potentially proposing alternative locations for K facility investment, for example, Webster Elementary, Washington Middle School.
Correct. Yes.
We included that in the RFP language for the boundary study. So was your intention for that to come out of the boundary task force, from district administration, or both? Or does administration have to run it through the test? You see what I'm saying? I'm not quite understanding that path.
So ultimately, the task force nor the third party that will be charged with the boundary study, I think, has it within the scope of their work to meet with the city or do other exploratory activities to say, hey, here's a separate or an alternative that has emerged through continued work of the district and ever. Let's put this in front of the board because it may need to be input, be late arriving input, but input into a boundary process. Does that make sense? I'm glad, because I didn't, if you were expecting this to be an output of the boundary, we're right, we were talking past each other.
Yeah, I kind of did. So what would be the mechanism of getting that to the board?
So I would suggest that district kind of take a moment. I don't think you need to answer that right now. I think it can come back to us in the form of presentation at working session. It may, so I think there's alternatives of a way to surface other alternatives. So I would have you talk with Dr. Taylor and the cabinet to make sure that the best approach is decided upon. This was more of a timing concern versus a mechanism concern.
Okay. Brian.
Regarding the study in general, I just want to remind us that we still, there's been lots of ideas brought forward and concerns with this. We still have a $20 to $30 million deficit that cliff is coming towards us. And while the state budget has provided some resources on there, we still have a decline in enrollment, regardless of the many reasons for it, the decline in birth rates, everything else that's going on in Wisconsin and nationally. And we're still going to need to make a decision on this, where we have 17,000 students. We have staff members that we want to avoid layoffs for if we are operating too many buildings and to right size the district. So while we're investigating this and making sure our boundaries and everything is lined up, we cannot continue to kick the can down the road. We need to make the decisions that probably should have been made in the last 10 years and take responsibility for it as a board. So.
Thank you. So anyway, I hope everyone has a little bit better understanding of kind of where we are. We're still in the RFP process. We're going to be drafting this charter. We are pushing forward, but right now it's not there. It's just we're just in the middle of that process. As far as any decisions, we gotta kind of wait on that. So that I don't want to have confusion out in our community as to what's going to happen. I don't want to talk about a lot of different ideas that might not come to fruition. The words we use in public have an impact, and I just want us to be really careful about how we talk about this now in public going forward. I just don't want to scare people and talk about things that aren't actually going to happen. That'll be hard to do because I know that as a group, it's very tempting to talk and just talk about ideas and everything, but it's a kind of a luxury that we don't have except in open session like this. So anyway, and this particular agenda item, we will have this on each agenda. I'm hoping that with time it'll become a little bit better defined. This is kind of our first crack at it. So, Brian.
Regarding comments that were made with the programming and the topic that we have, I just wanted to share, we all received an email earlier this year, I believe in the last month or so, that we are one of, looks like about 12 school districts that received the digital seal of biliteracy certificates by the state superintendent. So looking at our programming, we've continued to do this as a district. I think we are the only one in Brown County, it looks like, that has received this, and one of two in Northeast Wisconsin, just scanning over and doing the math in my head of us receiving this regarding our biliteracy certification. So.
Okay, thank you. Josh, did you have any referendum updates, anything that falls under this particular agenda item at this time?
I don't think so. Not in terms of looking forward. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the November referendum projects that are ongoing this summer. There's a lot of work being done. If you get a chance to just drive by some of these sites, it's happening pretty quickly. We're already just about to August here. We've got a little over a month until school opens, so we want to be as undisruptive as possible while we execute these projects, but making tremendous progress all over the district.
I think the drone shots that I've been seeing that perspective is really valuable. It gives you an idea of the scope of the work in a way that just actually driving by, which I have also done, doesn't quite get there. But the huge amount of work that's happening is really impressive. And this is the work that our community has agreed to and has supported us. And I'm not going to let this opportunity go by without thanking them. We owe it to them just for supporting the last referendum. So anyway. Okay, I think that, is there anything else under this agenda item that people want to talk about? Go ahead, Laura.
Just one real brief comment, since we didn't have this opportunity last month to respond to open comments. I just want to respond to Ms. Kardish and apologize if she felt I did not respond to her. I did a quick search in my emails. We did communicate on 5354 and 58. I let her know that I spoke with Nancy Welch, and Nancy shared all of their concerns because Lisa and I were having a hard time coordinating schedules. I let her know I would take all of her information she shared with Nancy to heart. And I thought it was closed at that time, so I apologized to her if she felt I did not follow up.
And I know that she's met with Vicky, and I know that she's met with Dr. Tiller. And we've had a lot of communication from her. So I feel like there's been a lot of help and attention. So I'm sorry that she's not satisfied with that, but it has happened. So anyway, anything else? Did you go ahead, Colin?
Also on the, what we have also made sure we're getting banners that's going to be posted to say your referendum dollars at work. So even if you don't hear, you can drive by and see. It was very important to us and the team that everybody sees that the referendum dollars and money is at work at these particular sites that we're going. So even if you don't go to the website, you'll be able to see it in a gigantic banner. So we're working on that process as we speak.
I think that's great, and that celebrating that commitment that our community has made is always a worthwhile thing to do. So
You'll also be seeing some potential ribbon cuttings, things like that as summer wraps up here. Plus, it looks like we're honing in on maybe the second week in September to break ground at West High School for that weight room addition.
okay.
I think we're looking at having a ceremony for that as well. It's looking like it's going to be the second week in September for breaking ground on that project. It depends on how, the bids go in August.
So I think we're going to have a point of order, and Brian, I think you can create the motion better than I can, that we want to rearrange the agenda so that we can do the human resources information systems next, and then reorder B to immediately after C, just to address some personal concerns. Correct.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we rearrange the posted agenda for item C, then item B, then item A under action items.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Then we're going to go on to C, Human Resources Information System Enterprise Resource Planning System Purchasing Recommendation. Here she is, she's back. Oh, okay.
I move that the purchase of Canvas Learning Management System and Mastery Connect in the amount of I'll withdraw that motion.
Second. No. You might have to, refresh, you have to log back in.
Can we just read it out loud and do it that way?
No, it's not refreshing. Can we just read it from the memo? I move that we approve the purchase of Tyler Technologies for the cost of Tyler Technologies for $991,725 and annual recurring costs are estimated at $208,950. With a 3-year contract for a total cost of $1,666,525 as presented. Be approved.
Second. Okay, go ahead.
We can start without the slides. So good evening. We're here tonight to obviously discuss the HRIS, Human Resources Information System, and ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning software package that we've been researching for just over a year. Our current financial system that we use for finance and purchasing was purchased and implemented in 1999. We have no formal HRIS system at this time. However, there are 13 different software programs being used between human resources and finance. Many of them don't communicate, require a lot of manual entry for numerous processes that leads to overtime costs and reduced productivity. An example of that is every time there's a position change, human resources actually does a literal screenshot of their screen and emails it to the finance department so that we can make those account changes. It's very difficult and labor intensive.
And like many systems that we have that we use in schools, there's aspects of them that a particular department works on behind the scenes. There may be, super users across multiple departments. And then in theory, there's going to be a kind of front facing side for an employee. We don't really have access to such a thing in a single integrated system. As a result, the workflow for working with new hires, potential hires, folks that are in the process of resigning or retiring does not go smoothly. It is primarily the equivalent of electronic papers being passed around through PDF forms or attachments and emails, which really slows things down and doesn't necessarily support the sort of thriving workforce, both internally or with our staff that we're seeking to hire and recruit and retain. And it really impacts our ability to provide accurate, timely data sets that are visually understood by key stakeholders as they need to make decisions. So as it reads, there we go. As a result, we have engaged, as Sarah indicated, for over a year now, working with the departments that are most consistently impacted by the lack of coordinated integrated systems in this realm. And we engaged in an RFI process back in the fall of 2022. We established criteria based on our known needs, based on current practices and processes, based on industry standards for finance and human resources, and based on internal stakeholder input from purchasing, human resources, the Department of Technology, Department of Finance. So we then solicited information in the fall of 2022. We provided a range on a publicly posted request for information through the direction of our Chief Operating Officer and our Director of Procurement that was open for about a month publicly. It outlined those criteria we were looking for based on what I just described. Oh, yes. Thanks. We have handouts.
Everyone loves a handout.
That's right. At the end of that open submission period, we had received 9 responses representing 7 different platform providers. We then moved into the evaluation of those responses. We met with our stakeholders to review again the criteria that we had established. We sought to provide clarifying questions to the entities that submitted their proposals. Via our evaluation tool, we assessed the offerings and we brought in 3 of the companies to do an in-person presentation. Good toss. Please.
Those 3 companies each were given 40 minutes to present with 10 minutes for questions. We brought in staff from HR, finance, technology, procurement to rate those on the rubric that we just handed out. Of those, after the presentations, all presenters were requested to provide cost estimates. The scores were the highest for Tyler Munis. In addition, the cost was the lowest. One of the other 3 came in at $3 million to $6 million for an implementation. The other one neglected to provide cost estimates, decided not to. Neither of the other 2 companies are in Wisconsin currently. Tyler Munis is in 2 school districts. We did do reference checks and found that they're as good as we hope they are. They sound as good as they hope they are. So that is our recommendation tonight.
Prior to moving forward with where we are this evening, we also then, like Sarah shared, we did those reference calls with those districts. We did 2 full days of a deep dive in the specific modules that were offered to verify that what was presented initially did follow through with what they had to offer. We believe in our assessment of this, that by automating a lot of our administrative tasks and improving data accuracy, the combined human resource information system and general ledger will help us become much more informed in our decision-making and will improve efficiency, cost effectiveness over time, and provide a better employee experience, both within our departments and for our overall employees. Taking us to our recommendations.
On that. So we are recommending tonight that the district enter a 3-year contract with Tyler Munis. As James said, at an estimated cost of $1.66 million. We anticipate savings year over year of at least $41,000 due to elimination of some of the software packages that we're using now. In addition, the funding for this will come indirectly from ESSER. It's a one-time cost, so it'd be eligible to spend that money on. And as a reminder, ESSER is elementary and secondary school emergency relief funding for COVID. So we have that to spend. So the project is on timeline to meet the deadline of September 2024 to spend that ESSER money. Recommended decision number 2 is that we hire a project manager to oversee and coordinate the project for the district. This actually kind of surfaced as a recommendation from Racine School District, who is just finishing going through an implementation with Tyler Munis. The project manager will oversee the project, facilitate the flow of work, be a liaison between all departments for the project, and coordinate people and processes to ensure that the project stays on schedule, within scope, and within budget. This will be a contract with a company. This won't be a full-time employee, so there'll be no legacy costs associated with that position. The estimated cost of a project manager for the 22-month project is $120,000.
I believe that at one point you told me that there's going to be like 3 sections of 8 months, that there are 3 stages for implementation, and this project manager will oversee those 3 stages.
That is correct.
That there'll be that I don't know about the 3 stages. I'm assuming they all address significantly different segments of our organization. Excuse me. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? What's that going to look like, and where would you start? Like, what's the first stage?
Tyler's recommendation in their sample statement of work, which I think was actually attached to the memo, is that we start with finance. It's the bulk of the existing system. We'll have to run 2 systems side by side for a while until we get human resources. Payroll will go up with human resources after finance. And then I think what they have is purchasing at the end, 22 months.
Essentially, there's like a 6-phase or 6 stages to each phase that they work through with you. And then you have this nexus where the project manager is ensuring that you're completing each phase, each step of each phase successfully.
All right, Brian.
And a recommendation, when you talk about recurring cost to anticipate savings, and you said that is only within software concerns. So we don't really have an estimate as far as how we'd be able to, what the benefit will be as far as streamlining our employee time yet, but you anticipate there being significant savings with that as well?
Definitely. We didn't put it on the slide because I guess, the work that they're doing now that's creating overtime, they could be doing more value added work. So I didn't want to come here tonight and tell you that we're going to eliminate overtime in any of these departments because I don't think that's going to happen, but it should be reduced and it should be much more value added.
Okay. Go ahead.
And that would be difficult even 2 years down the road to say, this software has saved this time, but I know it's probably not something you like in your world to not be able to put a number on that, but you're confident with that ability with it.
Yes, definitely. One of the things we have to do with our current software that one of my staff is actually working on as we speak is it's slow, and the customer service at the current software doesn't believe us that it's slow. So she's literally taking a video on her cell phone tonight to send to their help desk to show them that we're waiting 2 to 3 to 5 to 10 minutes for reports to run sometimes. I'm okay. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Go ahead, James.
So I think you're right. There will be some money saved in terms of time and effort associated with workflows. My family's had a personal experience with an engagement with the district around my son, who was trying to submit a successful application to the district for, substitute teaching, whatever. And at the same time, his significant other was doing the same with Kimberly School District. And the difference could not be more shocking, because he would do something wrong and the district would take 3, 4, 5 days to return a phone call or to progress the workflow around. And she was done in a day and a half. So the cost savings set aside, better quality candidates, because we were able to address the recruiting needs in time to actually compete for that talent, is what the district will really see from a successful implementation of an HRIS system. Hands down, we are shooting ourselves in the foot currently when we talk about competing for talent.
Brian.
And that's something that we've been addressing. As a board member, I've been making sure that's one of my priorities, is to make sure we can streamline that. On no fault of any department, I'm confident that this software will give us that ability. It sounds like it'll also give us the ability to make sure it said personnel files on there. So licensing is updated, all the paper that goes into teaching, student teacher classes, professional development will be able to be updated quicker, and the systems will talk to each other, I'm assuming, with that. Also, I mentioned the ability to look at how we pay our teachers and pay our staff, and licensing and seniority and other items. This is another one of those things where it may become painful to start with, but we will be able to get everything in there and make sure the systems are talking to each other and making sure that our employees are satisfied, especially on issues like James had mentioned about the quickness of being able to be hired and go through the steps with that. That comes with having 1,800 teachers as opposed to 150.
So any other questions? Anybody? I have a question. This is, what are you most excited about with this? If we prove this tonight, what is it about this that will make your life easier, make our district work better? What makes you excited about this purchase?
I'm personally excited about the features that they have graphics wise. And I think you'll see that as a board when we come to present, when Angie and I come to do our budget presentations. Dr. Tiller will be able to log in and look at any school he wants, graphs, boom, they just pop up. That's what I'm most excited about.
Okay. Mike?
I told Sarah to give me a jab if I talk too long. So you've kind of run the risk here if I want to kind of ramble for a while, but
Have a go.
this time of year, there's many things I'm excited about, but this time of year, I often get asked things like, how many open positions do we have? And our current system makes that, I sound odd when I try to answer it because you have to pull from so many sources, try to come up with a definitive number, right? So that's going to give us real-time information about the status of our staffing. So that's very important to me to understand, how we're operating there. I also recognize that none of what we share tonight is intended to diminish the really hard work of all the district staff that we have amazing computer programmers that for the past 20 years have helped things talk and work and keep us as competitive as possible in spite of the lack of other systemness. And so I'm excited about them helping us modernize, frankly, as part of this process, which that'll be great as well, so that our value of thriving workforce can really be even more realized. So.
Thank you. Lynn,
The slide says recommendation 1. Is there a recommendation 2?
Sorry, Lynn. Yes, that's the recommendation to hire the project manager.
Yeah, I had gone back a slide because it had the timeline on the first one in case you were trying to, I think Laura had asked about how those phases overlap a little bit.
okay. All right, so we are, if everyone's finished, we are. Thank you, everybody.
So I think we need a modified motion because mine didn't address part 2. It's been updated.
Right, so we bring.
Thank you.
Okay, so are we taking a vote?
Yep, yep.
Okay.
taking it up.
Okay. Yep, so, are we ready to vote?
Online voting is now open.
Are you?
I'm just waiting on Lynn. Do you want a voice vote?
I vote yes.
Okay,
All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
okay. Very good. Okay, now we go back to, under action, A, which is student academic standards, right? Oh, all right, B. Independent hearing officer resolution for expulsions. Would someone please read the motion?
I move that the resolution for an authorization and appointment of an independent hearing officer as presented be approved.
Second.
Discussion, questions? Kenzie? Oh, I'm sorry, Andrew. Go ahead.
So this falls into one of those categories where I've adopted this rule that if I'm not 85% sure about doing something, I'm gonna vote no, and it's just not quite there for me. I supported a hearing officer during COVID as a necessary situation. I do see pros and cons, but I don't. The fact that there are these Title IX rules that There's a lot of there's a lot of serious flaws in them. That's not a reason enough for me to do this. The reason I'm saying something and not just doing just a quiet no vote is because I do want to make it clear that my no vote has nothing to do with the quality of service we've received or the quality of output from the independent hearing officers who did and will continue to do a good job when this passes anyways. It's more of it's a statement of principle that I think the board really needs to be holding the expulsion hearings, except if the circumstances are so overwhelming. I think COVID pushed us to the point where it was, and now it's to the point where I'm no longer convinced completely, although I'm sure others probably still are. But it's not because of the people that'll be selected or anything.
Brian.
I was going to bring this up before Andrew made his points. I think that looking into the independent hearing officers, there's been smaller districts that have utilized them as well and have been pleased. I think our district our size needs to continue to utilize it. My professional career, I delve into this quite a bit and recognize a lot of the parts behind it. And I'm still finding out information from the hearing officer and reconfirming stuff on it. So I think this is a very strong use of our resources, and it's a good opportunity for us. Plus, we've had the opportunity and we've made decisions as a board that have kind of impacted hearing officers' decisions and within the board. So I think we still have that flexibility, but I respect what you're saying with that, Andrew.
From just a personal point of view, I used to take part in a lot of the expulsion hearings that we had. It was really hard to get school board members who could come during the day because most work, and it became kind of a nightmare of scheduling. And this eliminates that. I don't know, Abby, can you share with us some of the benefits that because your job is so closely tied to this person as far as your Title IX work?
Sure, yes. Actually, I performed 2 expulsions towards the end of the school year. Melissa has been training me with them. I did expulsions in my previous career before here. I really think the IHO method was very useful, especially towards the end of the school year. We had a significant amount of student issues that led to expulsions. And we're on such a tight timeline, and, really being able to accommodate those families and letting them be able to be here during the school day has made a big difference. I know that that's a pretty big deal with scheduling and with trying to, make sure we're following the statutes on our days of suspension versus, when we can expel. I do think the IHOs that I've worked with when I've been doing the hearings have been great, and I think they're very thoughtful with it. And, I think it still provides you guys the opportunity to review those decisions and make the final say as well.
Because we haven't relinquished our say over with
No.
what happens. I mean, it still comes to us. And so we can still have input at the end. But I do remember sitting in so many of those where it was, really hard to get, so many people have to be in the room. And if one little thing goes wrong, if we don't have enough board members or if something happens, everybody's day is blown up. So there's a promise of kind of justice, or I don't know if that's the right word, in the method that we've chosen now, so that things happen in a timely manner and in a predictable way.
I think that's really fair. And we also always have a court reporter there too. So we've had families request transcripts, which is really helpful too. And, with respect to, we did have a Title IX expulsion earlier this year, and making sure that we had our IHO who was trained on that was really important as well.
Okay. All right, thank you. Are there any other questions or concerns? Okay, Kinsey?
Online voting is now open.
The system will not allow me to log in, so I vote yes.
All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Thank you. Next, we're going on to A, student academic standards. Would someone please read the motion?
I move that pursuant to Wisconsin statute section 120.1213B, the list and description of the 2023-2024 student academic standards in the areas of mathematics, science, reading and writing, geography and history as presented and with said academic standards constituting the board adopted standards that are required under Wisconsin statute section 118.31GA be approved.
Second.
All right, any questions or discussion items, or discussion here? All right, Kinsey?
Online voting is now open.
Yes.
All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Thank you. Next is, let's see, we've got a number of a bit more voting to go. So the next one is D, modify the table of organization. Would someone like to please read that motion?
I move that the table of organization be modified to change the position of Student Services Secretary Level 5, 12 months at $24.97 an hour to the position of Special Education Budget Manager, 12 months, Manager Salary Group 5, $59,322 to $68,979, and that the associated job description as presented be approved.
Second.
Okay, questions, discussion, Andrew?
So this is changing an hourly position into a manager? That's what's happening here? I'm struggling here because I said I was gonna vote no on new administrative positions that if there wasn't a cut. So I just need to know a little bit more about this one.
Kinsey, correct me if I'm on the wrong one. This is your old position? This was Kinsey's position prior to coming to work for the Board of Education as superintendent. It was downgraded at that time that Kinsey came here to a clerical 5. Since that time, we've had to post and repost and post and repost and hire and train and then lose people because the expectations of this position are at such a high level. So I want to move it back to what it was without calling it an executive assistant, because that was something that the former HR director wanted us to move away from. But it would be back to a manager position.
So I guess, I care what, I care what you think, I care what Dr. Tiller thinks, I care what, Mr. Freeze thinks when I'm thinking about HR positions, so not so worried about people who aren't here what people who aren't here anymore think. What's the problem with the executive assistant? Or is it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how to respond to that, other than that was a direction that HR wanted to move towards. And we've found this particular position for that to be a problematic. It is problematic. We should have kept it.
Should have kept it as executive assistant? Okay. So can we just do an amendment and change it to that? I guess I'm more, because we're not creating a new supervisor. Right, so we have new people now. The last person wanted to have us put supervisor words apparently onto positions that aren't supervisors.
Go ahead, Kinsey. Even if it were an executive assistant, the executive assistants do fall under the administration or the manager category. So this is just calling it, instead of an executive assistant, it's just aligning it more to what it actually does, and it does do the special education budget. So it does have the associated job description attached there.
And
Josh,
yeah, and one more thing, thank you, Kinsey, for pointing that out. I was about to point that out. Administrative assistants get the administrative benefit package. They are also an hourly position that's eligible for overtime, so they're not exempt from FSLA, FLSA. The current rate for that group is $31.33 per hour, which is $61,328 annually. Just another data point for you. This isn't my job description, but I know the district has been working on either changing those executive assistant positions to secretary positions, because some of them are very secretarial in nature, or changing them to a salaried position because they do a higher level work.
Okay. Andrew,
Does manager imply supervision or not necessarily?
Not at all. Our computer technicians are in the manager group. We don't really have an exempt professional group outside of what they call managers. So they all kind of get lumped into that group. I was a manager here for a long time before I had any employees.
Okay, I'm fine with that. It's not creating as I mentioned before with other positions, I will vote no on new net plus administrator positions, but I'm now convinced that this isn't it, so I can vote yes. Thank you.
Brian,
Josh, or whoever can answer this, would this be similar to other districts have similar positions? And I'm sure there's a slew of different names with it due to the student services part, and this focusing specifically on special education, but these are positions that are fairly common in other districts.
They are, most other districts aren't managing the size of a grant that we're managing, which is a big part of this job, right? From a budgetary perspective, you've got stuff you're charging to a federal grant, you've got stuff you're charging, to just your regular Fund 27. That grant management is a huge part of this. Kinsey, correct me if I'm wrong, because she did the job.
It's definitely a very specific skill set that is being built on, as opposed to other administrative tasks and secretarial tasks with it. So Andrew, I recognize your concern with it and was following that same path, but I think we're on the same page.
okay. Anybody else? Thank you, Josh. Kinsey,
online voting is now open.
Yes.
All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
thank you. We're on to E. Modify the table of organization again. Would someone please read that motion?
I move that the table of organization be modified to change the position of Executive Director of Talent Acquisition, Development and Retention, 12 months, Administrator Salary Group 4, $113,530 to $132,012, to position of Executive Director of Human Resources, 12 months, with no change in salary group, and that the associated job description as presented be approved.
Second. All right, go ahead, Laura.
When I look back at our, the organizational charts that were shared, July at our work session earlier this month. At that time, the 23-24 proposed org chart had this position listed as reporting to, Deputy Superintendent Bear with the Executive Director of Talent Acquisition, Development and Retention. Was that not proposed at that time? Or has it been changed since then to this new title? So when we looked at it, just when we looked at it at the work session, the executive level or the position that's proposed for the Executive Director of Human Resources was not the title that was shared at the work session.
Yeah, that is correct. That's correct.
So, okay, that was just this is the first time we're hearing this title, correct? Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Any other discussion? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open.
Yes.
All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Thank you. Next. Is F. Would someone like to read the motion, please?
I move that the table of organization be modified to change the position of administrator on special human resources assignment, 12 months, administrator salary group 5, $109,902 to $127,795 to the position of director of employee performance and evaluations, 12 months, with no change in salary group, and that the associated job description as presented be approved.
Second. Okay, questions, discussion, Brian?
When we look at these positions as special human resources assignments and special spots, is there typically an end date to them, or is it kind of go through similar to an interim position, and would this become a permanent position then?
The goal is to, within 1 or 2 years, find a role that would be permanent, such as in this case.
Okay. Any other questions? Kinsey? Oh, I'm sorry, Laura. Go ahead.
And just a general comment to both these HR positions. In looking at the job description, I may have a bias as an HR professional, but looking at both of these, you could have no experience in the field of human resources and be an HR professional for the district. You could have education administration. And I know that may be the standard in education, but I see some value in having that professional knowledge in human resources, just like we expect to have professional knowledges for our educator. And just something to look at is some sort of HR certifications. There's through SHRM, through other organizations, just to add to that knowledge related to all of the tenets of human resource management.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
So you're absolutely right on that. As I move into this position, we're going to look at the whole piece moving forward. So some things are going to change.
Okay. You can pull that closer to you. That helps. Yeah, just there, right there. There you go. That's it? Okay. All right. Any more discussion or questions regarding this one? Okay, Kinsey?
Online voting is now open.
Yes.
All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Thank you. Next is G. Would someone please read the motion? Go ahead, Laura. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Laura.
I move that the table of organization be modified to change the position of usury director coordinator, 12 months, manager salary group 6, $50,773 to $59,037 to the position of technology projects and systems specialist, 12 months, manager salary group 3, $66,816 to $77,694, and that the associated job description as presented be approved.
I'll second that. Okay, Josh is before us. Does anyone have questions or any discussion for Mr. Patchett?
And Amy may be available
Oh,
as well. There she
okay.
is.
Hey, Amy.
These next two kind of go together and
Okay.
it's similar to the previous discussion.
Okay.
Amy, I don't know if you want to summarize the package here.
Sure. What we are looking to do here is take the user directory coordinator role, shift some of the executive assistant responsibilities that mesh with that user directory, shift them together to make the one technology projects and systems specialist role. And then the truly secretarial components of the executive assistant role will become the secretary role. If both of those two things are approved tonight, we will save the district approximately $4,400 to roughly $7,000 a year plus benefits, because it would be decreasing management by 1 FTE. And like the discussion was previously, all of our managers within technology specifically do not supervise people, to Andrew's point earlier.
Okay. Thank you. Questions or discussion? Kinsey?
Online voting is now open.
Yes.
All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
We're almost done, folks. Would someone like to read H? Go ahead, Laura.
I move that the table of organization be modified to change the position of executive assistant technology 12 months, confidential secretary group $31.33 per hour to the position of technology secretary 12 months, $24.30 per hour, and that the associated job description as presented be approved.
Second. All right, questions for Amy? Questions for Josh? Discussion? Okay, Kinsey.
Online voting is now open.
Yes.
All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Okay. All right, last is I. Would someone like to please read that motion?
I move that JW Industries LLC be awarded the bid for the grandstands at Preble Stadium and Southwest Baseball and Softball projects in the amount of $1,248,278 as presented be approved.
Second.
Okay. Does anyone have questions for Josh on this one? It's a big purchase and hope you've all reviewed. Eva, you're looking at me like you might have questions. No? Okay. Okay.
I'm excited about these as well. It's going to really make a huge difference. Now, when we start the fall season here, Preble will, as we've discussed, have the turf field down, but the grandstands and the press box will not be replaced at that time. This will make the experience for our fans very, very nice.
Okay. All right. Everyone good? Okay, Kinsey.
Online voting is now open.
Yes.
Andrew and Laura McCoy, are you able to vote?
I thought I did. It says I did.
Yeah, it even has the Change
Yeah,
my
change
vote.
vote option is there, so I must
I'll
have voted.
change it to, let's say yes again. I did change my vote, but I just pushed yes again.
Okay, I'll try that again. All right, I did it again.
All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Very good. All right, guys. Thank you for making your, I know, just a second, making your way, patiently through that process. And then finally, would someone please read the motion for, 6A?
I move that the consent agenda items as presented be approved.
Second.
Go ahead, Brian.
I just want to say, earlier I had mentioned the importance of making sure that we hire Green Bay people. I get it. And I'm excited to see one person on here, and I'm sure there's others that is a product of our school system that's chosen to come back to work for our district that will do great things and shows the value of our district and that we're able to make that happen. And I encourage all of our other future leaders to look at potentially working for the Green Bay School District at some point as well, if that's your career interest. So
Okay. Anything else, guys, before we take a vote? All right, Kinsey.
Online voting is now open.
Yes.
All votes have been entered and the motion is carried with all board members voting in favor.
Okay. That completes our agenda. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
move.
So move.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
You have been watching the Green Bay Area Public School District's Board of Education meeting. Please visit the school district's website, www.gbaps.org, for more information on the district and future meeting dates. If you cannot fully access the information on this video, please let us know the accessibility issue you are having by calling 920-448-2025 or by email at communications@gbaps.org. We will try to provide the information to you in an alternative format and/or make the necessary improvements to make the information accessible.